Next is Representative Don Vruwink.
Thank you, Chairman Tussler and the rest of the committee. And a lot of the questions you asked, I wish I could have answered for you. And before I start my testimony, Representative Sortway, you asked about why isn't there somebody there. I can tell you what the school that I taught at for a long time, we would have track, cross country, there might be 2 softball games, 2 baseball games going on. So look at the events, and then a soccer game or 2. And they're spread out. An athletic director can only be one place. There's really nobody else there designated to watch what's going on. So it's got to be done by the coaches, basically, everyone else. So that presents a problem. Football games, usually you have police officers. You have somebody of authority there. But on a spring day, if there's 6 or 7 events, the athletic director can't be every place at one time. So that presents some difficulty. I'm here to speak in favor of this bill. And I'm going to give you a couple incidents why that might be different than what other people talk about. To give you my background, I've been an umpire, a baseball umpire since I was 18. Now, 50 years later, I'm 68, and I was thinking last night as I got sent about 20 games that, please, can you umpire these games? And of course, I can't take any of them until I see what my schedule is. So I'm umpire on an as-need basis. And so when I know what my schedule is, if someone needs it, especially the schools in my district that I have a close relationship to. But I can tell you, as an umpire, 2 years ago, I was paid $100 to do 1 game. Because of rainouts, there wasn't enough umpires. It was a varsity game. So I got $100, and the game ended up 5 innings because they couldn't find people. And I can tell you as an umpire today, a lot of the umpires in my sport and baseball, and right now I'm just doing softball because the field's shorter. When you get to be 68, you don't run as good as you used to when you were younger. It's a shorter field. And I take pride in being an umpire. I take pride in all my sports. I've been involved in sports my whole life. For those of you that know my background, I coached 90 high school teams. I ran a recreation program where I hired 20 kids to umpire for a long time. And so I've been involved in a lot of different games, and I've seen a lot of different things. And the situation has increasingly got worse. And most of the baseball, softball umpires today are my age. And I know that this year's going to be tougher for the WIA to find umpires or schools, because a lot of my friends who I was doing games with, because last year there weren't any games, have since decided, well, since we're out a year, we're not going to go back. And so they're never come back. And so I'm not going to get into numbers because I think we have people here to testify on that. But I do know if we would get a lot of rain this spring and games get piled up, that there are going to be a lot of freshman JV games that are not going to be played. And I do know that I have colleagues who sign up for freshman JV games, will drop those games and varsity games become available, and then those games get canceled. And to me, it's not fair to the kids. Being a coach of freshman baseball for a short time, I was mostly 27 years a varsity softball coach. When those games get canceled, you can't have practice. The kids' minds aren't there to practice. So it's, and I've heard people in the assembly talk about we need our sports. They've worked hard to get WA to have sports seasons because they wanted their kids to have sports. Well, if you want your kids to have sports, you have to make an effort to make sure you have enough officials for those games. There are some sports, it's still okay, but you're going to hear, I believe, from people who are sitting over there, there are certain sports that that it's very short and you can't find enough people to do. And I want to just relay a couple of incidents that I've had happen to me, or I've seen personally, where I believe officials have to be protected. Now, and I believe part of the problem has been how many youth sports have grown over the years, because parents pay a lot of money for these kids to play, and I believe they have more say. But let me tell you something that happened to me 3 years ago. I was doing and by the way, I was begged to do the games because they couldn't find anyone. And so after I was on my 4th game of the day in 90-degree weather, and I didn't leave because they had nobody to replace me. The game was tied at the end of the game. Girl was on second base. There was 2 outs, bottom of the 7th inning. Ball's hit to the outfield. The throw comes in. The catcher blocks the plate, then catches the ball. The girl slides in, never makes it to the plate, and I make the call. The call I made had 2 parents of 12-year-old girls follow me into the parking lot. By the way, Mr. Anthem, you said you had been an official. What was the right call? Okay, the girl never made it to the plate, but I called her safe because the catcher blocked the plate without the ball. Most parents don't know the rules. You talk to coach, they don't know the rules. So right away, I was the worst person in the world. Followed me 200 yards to the parking lot. They got so loud that the supervisor almost was afraid they would have to come out. These parents were yelling at me. One was in my face. I could have counted his teeth. Now, what happens? This is after 6 hours I've been umpiring. What happens if I reacted and hit him? Who's at fault? Who's going to be one to get the ticket? And here I was there doing this tournament a favor because I couldn't find anybody. And so I shudder to think if I couldn't have contained myself with these parents yelling at me in my face, and they didn't know the rules. That's one incident. There's another incident in which I was a coach, and I was coaching a Legion game, and the other Legion coach ran out into the field, and the base umpire got in his face right away, and the base umpire was a good friend of mine, and I know he has a short temper. And as soon as he ran out there, I and the whole plane umpire, who was a friend of mine, ran out there because we didn't want anything to happen. Well, this coach got right in his face, and we had to escort the umpire off the field because we could see how angry he was. What if he would have hit that coach? The umpire is at fault. We have to protect umpires. Because I will tell you, there are a lot of umpires who do doubleheaders, do these weekend tournaments where they work 5, 6, 7 hours. I once did a tournament in Fort Atkinson. I did 14 games over a 3-day period. Again, because the guy was a friend of mine, he couldn't find anybody. And I was exhausted. And yet, sometimes you make calls and you get, and I will tell you, this is a pleasant one, that they've seen better heads on a glass of root beer than they saw on me. And that's a mild that you hear sometimes. So I think this legislation is very important. And you say, it singles out an umpire, an official, because they could react. I mean, you do a basketball game, you're dead tired in a gym. I had friends who are basketball officials told me this was the best year they ever had officiating. There weren't any fans in the stands. They really enjoyed the games because they didn't have to, because I've been there. I was a basketball coach for 35 years, and I've been there when there's a timeout and the official holds the ball, and these people behind, just 3 feet behind them, just berate them something terrible. And as an official, as an umpire, I try not to be noticed. I don't want people to know I'm on the field. I just want to do my job. And we shouldn't be noticed, but it seems like we get noticed when people don't know the rules, and then they single us out. So I could go on, but you've been here a long day too. So I'll entertain some questions.